Page 113. Terrell took something different out of his pocket, a small black pistol. "Oh, no!" Bubbles whimpered and backed away. Jules stared at the gun, and a taunting smile slowly appeared on his lips. "You ain't got the guts." "Give the money back," Terrell said coldly. He was trying to act tough and doing a pretty good job of it. Someone who didn't know him as well as I did might think it was real. Or maybe I no longer knew him as well as I thought. "Give it back, Jules," Bubble warned in a trembling voice. "He's a disciple." "I don't care if he's the NBA, FBI, and NFL," Jules spit. "You will when you sober up," said Bubbles. Jules ignored his cousin. "He don't have the guts. Probably don't even know how to use that thing. I bet it ain't even loaded." "This is the last time I'm going to say it," Terrell warned. "Give me that money." Jules cursed him. Terrell lowered the gun. Bang! Bubbles and I jumped. Jules went down with a thud and grabbed for his foot. "My foot!" he cried. "He shot my foot!" "You're lucky I didn't shoot your face," Terrell growled. Jules lay on the ground, clutching his foot and grimacing. Tears squeezed out of the corners of his eyes. His white sneaker turned red. Bubbles stood frozen with his mouth agape and his eyes bulging. Terrell bent over Jules and started going through his pockets, searching for the money. Wham! Jules swung his arm out hard, catching Terrell square in the face. My friend fell back, and the pistol clattered to the ground about 5 feet away. Jules rose to his hands and knees. He looked at the gun. Then he looked at me. I knew what he was thinking. He lunged for a gun. For a kid who'd been shot in the foot, he moved pretty fast. But I was faster, scooping up the gun and aiming it down at him. This was the first time I'd ever held a real gun, and even though it was small, it weighed more than I expected. My heart was hammering and my hand trembled but I willed it to stop. Still on his hands and knees, Jules looked up at me uncertainly. Then out of nowhere, a different sensation took hold. With that gun in my hand, I began to feel powerful in a way I'd never felt before. Terrell rose unsteady to his feet and staggered toward me with his hand out. "Gimme." "No," I said, knowing what would happen if I did. "I said gimme," Terrell demanded. Keeping Jules in the corner of my eye, I swung my arm around and aimed the gun at Terrell. "What?" My friend's mouth fell open and his face scrunched up like he didn't understand. He squinted his eyes. "Whose side you on?" "Yours, stupid." Terrell cursed, but it was all for show. I aimed the gun at Jules. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Bubbles, take $40 out of his pocket and give it to Terrell. Since Terrell and Jules had been playing head-on, half the $80 belonged to each of them. Now they were even. Terrell counted the bills and shoved them into his pocket. Then he turned to Jules. "I ever see you around here again, I'll kill you soon as look at you." He disappeared into the building. Jules sat up, holding his foot and moaning. His sneaker and hands were smeared red. Bubbles squatted next to him. "Take him to the emergency room," I said. "Tell him you and him were playing around with a gun and it went off accidentally." I bent down in front of Jules. "Know what happens to snitches?" He didn't respond. Slap. I smacked him half hard in the face. "Answer me." Jules jerked up his head, gritting his teeth venomously. "I know. They're going to try to get you to change your story," I told Bubbles, "but no matter what they say, you stick to it. You tell anyone what really happened and—" "Don't have to tell me." Bubbles helped his cousin up. Jules grimaced and draped his arm over Bubbles' shoulder for support. He kept the wounded foot raised and hopped on the other foot, but he narrowed his eyes and gave me a look to let me know that if I weren't holding that gun, he'd kill me with his bare hands. A lot of guys may act tough, but if they're shot in the foot and still give a look like that, they are tough. I waited until they left, then went out in the street and threw the gun down a storm drain. The next day I woke up with a headache. Didn't feel like going to school. I was loafing around watching TV when LaRue came out of the bedroom, buckling his belt. "Get dressed," he said. I didn't have to ask why. A little while later, I was on the 15th floor for the first time since that day 2 years before, when Marcus gave me his bail money. In the middle of a filthy room, Jules was kneeling with his hands bound behind him and his eyes blindfolded. His lower lip was swollen and split, and his nose was caked with blood. His left foot was wrapped in a bandage, so I knew he'd made it to the emergency room the night before. Marcus and Terrell were there, along with Tyrone. "Where's the gun?" Marcus asked me. "Threw it down a storm drain," I said. "What?" Terrell sputtered. Marcus gave him a silencing look, then turned to me. "Smart. Cops can't prove nothing without a weapon." He gestured at Jules. "He cheat?" I glanced at the blindfolded, cowering figure. "He's new around here and made a mistake. We were all pretty wasted." "Say what?" Terrell gasped incredulously. With the blindfold on, Jules couldn't see me press my fingers against my lips to hush Terrell. "So you don't think we should kill him?" Marcus asked with a wink. Jules shuddered. "Hell no," I said. "In fact, I think he'd make a pretty good disciple." "Over my dead body," Terrell snorted. "Don't say that," LaRue muttered, "unless you want it to come true."